Giant snake crushing wild cat to death. Then two men did something no one expected. There are places in this world where civilization ends and the wild begins. In the small, sun-scorched town of Las Hatias, Argentina, people live right at that edge, where dusty roads meet the dense, untamed jungle they call the Green Wall. Out there, nature follows one brutal rule. The strong survive, the weak perish. It's not cruel. It's not kind, it just is. And for generations, the people of Las Hatias have respected that law. You don't interfere. You watch, you look away, and you let nature take its course. But one blazing afternoon, two men were forced to make an impossible choice. The sun was merciless that day, beating down like a hammer on the cracked earth. Miguel, a weathered rancher in his late 40s, was driving his battered pickup truck along a fence line with his nephew Mateo. The young man, barely 20, slouched in the passenger seat, half asleep in the oppressive heat. Feels like the world's holding its breath. "Tio," Mateo muttered, wiping sweat from his brow. Miguel grunted. "It's always holding its breath out here, Mijo." "Always waiting? Waiting for what?" Before Miguel could answer, something in the road ahead made him slam the brakes. The truck skidded violently, tires screaming, sending up a massive cloud of red dust. Mateo flew forward, catching himself on the dashboard. "What the? A cow?" Miguel didn't answer. His knuckles were white on the steering wheel, his eyes locked ahead. "Tio?" Mateo's voice had gone tight. "Look," Miguel said quietly. "Middle of the road." As the dust settled, Mateo squinted through the windshield. At first he saw nothing, and his blood ran cold. It wasn't a log. It wasn't a shadow. Coiled in the center of the road was a massive boa constrictor, its body thick as a telephone pole, dark patterns rippling across scales that gleamed in the harsh sunlight. But the snake wasn't just sunbathing. It was feeding. "Madre de Dios," Mateo whispered. That's the biggest snake I've ever seen." Miguel opened his door slowly. The creak of the hinge was deafening in the sudden silence. Even the jungle had gone quiet. No birds, no insects. Just them, the heat, and the thing on the road. They approached carefully, keeping their distance. The boa's flat, wedge-shaped head lifted slightly, its black eyes unblinking. But it wasn't interested in them. It had prey. As they got closer, they finally saw what was trapped in those deadly coils. A jaguarundi, a sleek, dark-furred wild cat, smaller than a puma but every bit as fierce. Or at least it had been fierce. Now it lay limp, its body disappearing under the boa's tightening grip. The snake squeezed methodically, relentlessly, a perfect killing machine. Miguel felt the familiar weight of sadness. This was nature's law. The snake had made its kill. It was hard to watch, but it wasn't their place to interfere. "Come on, Mateo," he said, turning away. "This isn't our business." But Mateo didn't move. "Wait. Tio. Look at its face." Miguel stopped. He looked back, and his heart sank. The jaguarundi wasn't dead. The cat's body gave a tiny, desperate shudder. Its chest moved, barely. It was still breathing, still fighting a battle it had already lost. Then Miguel saw the cat's eye, a sliver of amber, half open, staring directly at them. It wasn't the blank gaze of a dying animal. It was something else entirely. It was a plea. The little cat tried to make a sound. Its mouth opened, a small pink circle against its dark face, but nothing came out. The pressure was too great. It was being crushed to death, breath by breath. The boa shifted, scales scraping against dirt like dry leaves. It tightened its grip. And then they heard it. A faint, sickening pop. A rib breaking. Mateo made a strangled sound. We can't just stand here and watch this." Miguel was torn. He knew the rule. You don't interfere with a predator. It's dangerous, not just for you, but for the balance of everything. The boa had earned this meal. Taking it was wrong, but then the cat's eyes found his again. Still conscious, still aware, still begging for help as it suffocated. The law of nature suddenly felt like a cold, empty excuse. "No, Miguel said, his voice turning hard. "We can't." He ran to the truck. "Mateo, get the tire iron. And that heavy blanket from the back. Now." Mateo sprinted to the toolbox while Miguel grabbed a thick piece of hardwood he kept for emergencies. "What's the plan?" Mateo shouted, running back. "The snake's powerful," Miguel said, eyes locked on the boa, "but it can only squeeze. It can't fight us and hold the cat. We don't hurt it, we just make it let go. You distract the head with the blanket. When it looks at you, I'll pry the coils open, fast. You ready?" Mateo's hands were shaking. Ready, they approached together. The boa saw them coming. It lifted its head, tasting the air with its forked tongue. The message was clear. "This is mine." "Back off! Now, Mateo!" Miguel shouted. Mateo yelled, a raw, primal sound, and whipped the blanket at the snake's head. The boa hissed like a punctured tire, recoiling from the sudden movement. Its attention shifted from prey to threat. That was the opening. Miguel jammed the hardwood deep into the coil where the cat's body was trapped. He threw his full weight against it, using it as a lever. "Get the iron in," he roared. Mateo shoved the tire iron next to the wood. "Push!" They both heaved with everything they had. For a terrible moment, nothing happened. The snake's muscle was like steel cable. Like trying to bend solid rock, the boa thrashed, enraged, trying to strike at them. But it couldn't. Not while maintaining its grip on the cat. "Again," Miguel bellowed. They pushed harder. The coil gave. Just an inch. But it was enough. The jaguarundi, freed from the crushing pressure for just a fraction of a second, sucked in a desperate, ragged breath. The sound gave the men renewed strength. But the boa felt its prey move. Felt the attack. It was losing its meal. In a sudden, violent explosion of power, the snake uncoiled. Both men were thrown backward, tumbling hard into the dust. The snake, over 15 feet of pure muscle and fury, drew itself up, head raised high, ready to strike. Miguel and Mateo scrambled backward on their hands and knees, hearts pounding. "Don't move." Miguel breathed. They froze. The boa stared at them with cold, black fury. It had been robbed, cheated of its hard-won meal. For a long, terrible moment it held its striking pose, weighing whether revenge was worth it. Then, deciding the fight wasn't worth the risk, it turned. With shocking speed for its size, it slithered off the road, a dark river of muscle vanishing into the green underbrush. Silence. The dust began to settle. Miguel and Mateo sat there, gasping, hearts hammering in their chests. "It's gone," Mateo whispered, voice trembling. Miguel got to his feet slowly, brushing dirt from his clothes. He looked at the road. The jaguarundi lay where the snake had dropped it, a wet, limp bundle of dark fur, covered in dust and the boa's saliva. It wasn't moving. "Oh no," Mateo said, walking toward it. "Tio, I think we were too late." Miguel felt a hollow pit open in his stomach. They'd risked their lives, broken the sacred rule. For nothing, he knelt beside the small cat. It looked so broken, so still. He reached out a hesitant hand, and then it coughed, a small, wet, terrible sound. The cat's whole body convulsed. It coughed again, spitting out foam and mucus. Its amber eyes fluttered open, dazed, confused, in agony, but alive. "Easy, little fighter," Miguel whispered. "Easy. You're safe now." The jaguarundi lay there for a full minute, just breathing. The men watched in silence, afraid to move, afraid to break whatever spell was keeping the cat alive. Slowly, painfully, the cat tucked its legs beneath its body. It wobbled, tried to stand. Its back legs collapsed. "It's hurt," Mateo said. "Its back might be broken." "No," Miguel said softly. "Give it a minute." "It's just in shock," the cat tried again. This time it got its feet under it. It stood there, swaying, head hanging low. Then it looked up at the two massive humans towering over it. There was no fear in its eyes, just exhaustion, and something else. Recognition. Gratitude. The cat held their gaze for a long moment, an acknowledgement passing between predator and rescuer. Then it took one shaky step, then another. It stumbled to the edge of the road and, like the snake before it, disappeared into the jungle shadows. Miguel and Mateo stood alone on the empty road. The heat pressed down on them again. Slowly, the insects began to buzz. The world, which had held its breath, started breathing once more. They walked back to the truck in silence and climbed in. The cab was like an oven. Miguel started the engine. They drove for 5 full minutes without speaking. Finally, Mateo broke the silence. "We saved it." Miguel nodded, eyes on the road. "Yeah, we did, but the boa, it's hungry now. We stole its food. Was that the right thing to do, Tio?" Miguel was quiet for a long time. He pictured the cat's eyes, the way it had looked at them. "I don't know if it was right," he said finally, his voice rough, "but it was what we could do. Today, that was the choice we made." The story spread through Las Hatias like wildfire. The local forester, a man named Rojas, shook his head when he heard it. He said what the men did was insanely dangerous. A boa that size could have easily broken their bones or worse, but he also said that the local people have a knowledge of these animals that you can't learn from books. They knew how to intervene without getting themselves, or the snake, killed. Still, the question lingered. People debated it over coffee, over dinner, over drinks at the cantina. By saving the jaguarundi, had they interfered with the sacred, natural order? Should they have left nature alone and not deprived the boa of its hard-earned meal? Usually, the residents of Las Hatias don't meddle. They let the wild be wild. But this time was different. This time, the victim seemed to ask for help, and the men couldn't remain indifferent. So here's the question that haunts this story. Was their action right, or should they have left nature to its brutal course? Maybe there's no perfect answer. Nature's law is simple: kill or be killed. Survival of the fittest. No mercy, no exceptions. But humanity has a different law. When you see suffering and you have the power to stop it, maybe you're supposed to, even if it means breaking an older, harsher rule. On that scorching afternoon in Las Hatias, 2 men made a choice. They looked into the eyes of a dying creature and decided that compassion, however messy, however imperfect, was worth the risk. And in that moment, maybe they proved that being human means more than just surviving. It means caring enough to try. What do you think? If you were in Miguel's shoes, what would you have done?